do a rapid fire Q&A. So the first answer that comes to your mind, give it to me.
Gotcha.
All right. Would you rather sunrise meditation or sunset yoga?
Sunrise meditation.
All right. Would you rather cold plunge or infrared sauna?
Infrared sauna.
Fresh juice or herbal tea?
Fresh juice.
Forest hike or beach walk?
Forest hike.
Breathwork session or sound bath?
Breathwork.
Day fast or night fast?
I got the day fast.
All right.
Day fast.
Farmer's market or home garden?
Farmer's market.
Journaling or vision boarding?
Vision board.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. We had to tap that in real quick and ask some quick questions. So we're going to jump right into this, man.
Yeah.
First and foremost, your title, right? How do you describe your title when people ask, what do you do?
So by trade, I am a naturopathic practitioner. I don't like using titles, though.
Okay.
Especially in 2025, everyone wants a title to appeal to authority. Oh, I'm better than you. I don't like that. I'm just a regular guy.
Right.
During COVID, I was learning a lot about health, about microbiology, virology, and being trained by a bunch of people that were also leaving the medical system to teach more so holistically over the course of 6-7 years, collaborating with some great minds that we'll talk about in a second. And just, taking the time to not only instill all these principles in my life, but to other people's lives, and just getting that license or practitioner certification, and just now starting off my career with my own practice. So my Instagram, where people know me, Undercover Virologist, it all started really exposing virology, exposing the falsehoods of germ theory, which is what almost the entirety of medicine is based off of. Right. So really getting to the root of it, what disease actually is, and then trying to heal from within and understand how disease is actually a part of the healing process.
Love that. I love that, man. And it is, like you had it right on the head, which is one of the important reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, because on the People's Healing Hour, we have doctors on here. We talk about health. We talk about wellness in many different aspects, but people don't grasp some of the most core aspects, which the biggest issue, like you said, is the germ theory ideology that is, peripherally all over our medical system and the issues that are there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
major ones, yeah.
Major. You know what's crazy? In this terrain theory experience and learning about the inconsistencies, to be polite, when it comes to virology, I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Tom Cowan, Alex Zek, and Dr. Andy Kaufman, and I met all these guys before I had the opportunity to meet you. Yeah. And we're like right in the backyard of each other. Yeah. But I love the connection pieces where we get to connect for sure. It's a special, man. We have a community. We have aligned ideas which are based in truth and facts.
Exactly.
And trying to share this information to the masses.
This new paradigm has to start from the ground up, really, and we're building a community, and I like that it's getting there to the point where we're making waves for sure. I like it.
Yes. So let's just jump right into the basics. What is the definition of terrain theory?
Well, I stopped, a couple of years ago, I stopped calling it terrain theory. I just call it terrain or bioterrain medicine. It's just the ideology, really, that our germs within us are working with our body, and that disease is a process that your body uses to expel any imbalances. And the terrain, the inner milieu, which is the microbiome, will reflect perfectly what you're giving it. So your terrain really is your environment, it's your food, it's the quality of your sleep, your sunlight, your emotions, your relationships, your past traumas, your surgical history, your pharmaceuticals. All of that is your terrain. So if you work with a good terrain, you will never need to be diseased in order to heal. And disease, and we talk about this a lot, what disease really is. Dis-ease, the distance from being eased. So you are away from a state of homeostasis, which is your body at just a stagnant state of health. When things are out of whack, it has to expel to rebalance. And that's what the allopathic model will say is, a cough or a flu or a cold, whatever. In terrain, we call it a rebalancing. You can say detoxification. You can say, my body is just expelling, whatever. It's nomenclature. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, your body is healing, and the terrain, it's not saying, and a lot of people hear this, they say, so you're saying that germs don't exist? You're saying this, that, and a third? We're saying disease doesn't exist? No. Germs are a part of the process. They reflect our terrain, and disease is necessary in certain cases to adapt to your environment. But at the end of the day, if you care for your own body, you're never going to get sick.
Right. And I feel like that's the juxt of everything. Your
Yes.
body.
It's your body.
Your body is the core. It is the most important factor of all of everything. People going and looking around for the invisible enemy, the boogeyman that's not there.
Because then it removes responsibility from your own health. Oh, it's not what I ate. It's not the injections I took. It's this germ. It's this, that, and the third, and it removes all the culpability from your actions.
Right.
So.
And there's a lot of people with a lot of different ailments, a lot of different issues, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's just my terrain is just broken." I mean, there are instances where people are born with certain abnormalities genetically and certain issues that are just prevalent when they came out the womb.
Yeah.
But for the most part, everybody plays a direct part, and your environment obviously plays a direct part in how you're healing or how not well you're healing.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it when you said when people do have ailments, and like we're not saying they don't. However, the allopathic model has made up hundreds of diagnoses that really, when you look at them from a clinical diagnosis or differential diagnosis, they don't really, they're not really different. They don't really, they're like, for instance, cold or flu. That's a perfect example. What's the difference? Right. You got a cough, you got a fever, you got chills, you got body aches. Okay, pneumonia, same thing. COVID, RSV, same thing. Like, what's the differential diagnosis here? You have Lyme disease, which has 50 to 100 plus different symptoms. It's impossible to diagnose. Mold, all these people nowadays, mold this, mold that. The symptoms are the same as Epstein-Barr and Lyme disease or chronic diseases like fibromyalgia, for instance. All of these diseases, all the same. So we make up these diagnoses to then give you a drug, and then you get sick from the drug, and now you're reliant on that system to keep you healthy as you actually get worse. So I never say to people that your sickness is made up, your disease is made up, but I do believe the vast majority of diagnoses are made up to push the allopathic model onto people. So when people say, "Oh yeah, I'm actually sick," yeah, I'm no doubt you're sick, but you did play a part in it. For the most part, you did play a part in it, and there are exceptions. You are born with a crazy thing, and say there was like some toxic water your mom drank and it went to you. Like, that's different. But for the most part, it's your actions that are directly reflecting a poor terrain, and that's what we have to get back to. When you rely on an entire hospital allopathic system, you're never going to get to the root as to why stuff is going on. Why is my body acting this way? You're just going to suppress. And then now we have, at this point in America, 50% have a chronic disease. Well over half are obese. And we spend the most over like all the countries in the world. Our medical bills essentially outnumber GDPs of entire nations, and we're sicker than ever. So what's going on here? And it has to be something that we have to change from within and start relying on these synthetic medicines.
Couldn't say that any better.
Yeah,
I feel like we're being farmed.
Oh yeah.
Like
we're like chickens. So
it's like a sick farm.
It's a sick farm, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I believe that the body is so miraculous, and even with all the toxins that's put in our environment, all the toxins that people put in their bodies, all of the negative thought patterns, all of these things that are contributing to us having a low energy, physical energy, and etheric energy that complements the development of illness, we're still able somehow to recover and be resilient and heal. That's why, to me, I'm like, we have magical powers all the time. People are sitting here right now listening to this. There's some cancer cells streaming through your bloodstream, and you have this incredible system within that is disseminating and breaking things down and putting things back together the appropriate way, so those cancer cells don't develop and turn into tumors and make you really, really, really ill. Which is, one of my favorite parts about our body is the complement system.
Yeah.
Like these proteins in our blood that, I understand in cells, white blood cells, they have a nucleus, they have intelligence, they're doing things, they're following directions, they, have their community. But the complement proteins, they don't have a nucleus, they don't have a brain, but they can identify certain things that are not supposed to be there and assemble themselves like Lego blocks to make all these really cool things to attach to and break down what we would call pathogenic, or a friend of mine says the opportunistic microbes that are in our bodies. And they don't have a brain to do so. They don't have what we would call a nucleus or a brain to identify and behave. And I just always think like, yo, how is that happening? How?
Yeah.
It's just
Makes you wonder. Like you said, you mentioned it. You said the etheric type of thing. Where I personally, I'm a believer in God and intelligent design, and I think that our body is a perfect reflection of that intelligent design. It just knows what to do. Right. You just have to give the body the tools to do it. When you eat right, for instance, when you're eating nutrient-dense foods, when you're going out in the sun, you're taking care of your emotional health, your body has all the tools now to assimilate that and use it to heal. When you remove all those factors from your life, your body's just going to disintegrate slowly. It may take a decade, it may take 2 decades, but you neglect your body, it's not going to have the ability to rebuild itself. Right. That's why it's important. The basic stuff is to eat right, look after your emotional health, move your body, all that stuff. I mean, it's the basic stuff that really keeps your terrain going.
Heck yeah. Oh my goodness. WACR 90.3 FM radio, the voice of Harlem. We are here talking terrain theory with Jacob Diaz, the undercover virologist. These topics are extremely important for us to take responsibility, personal responsibility for our health and our wellness and our recovery processes. We just kind of talked about the complement system, which I know a lot of people have not have heard before, but we got to throw some things out there that's important for you guys. So your blood has these proteins in them. You can visualize these little building blocks going through your blood and breaking down and removing things that should not be there. They're like the helpers of the immune cells. They are always there. I think the count was somewhere like in the trillions of all these just immune proteins in our body. But it's a really important factor, and I think everybody can take that into heed. Like, you can visualize the healing process, and these things will take heed. Last episode, we had some gentlemen talking about the beauty of structured water and our intentions for water.
I was just listening, driving down Easy Water, the podcast with Alex Zek and Gerald Pollack.
Yes.
Man, I love that stuff. It's amazing.
It really is. You know, if we look at our blood, that's the majority. It's water.
We are water.
We're water.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Electrical water meat suits.
Pretty much, yeah. With a bunch of germs in it.
With a bunch of germs in it that keep us alive, yo. There's so many doggone germs in our body.
Yeah.
The microbes, right? Let's not disrespect them or call them germs. Right?
Exactly. But I actually like to educate people on the name of the root of germ.
Right.
The germ, to germinate, to the beginning of life. That's essentially what it is.
I like that.
It is, and that's why it's so funny when people try to say, oh, they're pathogenic, evil germs. Like, if they are the actual manifestation of life, the beginning of consciousness, why are we labeling these things as negative? It doesn't make any sense. And then when you use words like antibiotic, what is a biotic? Bio, life. Anti-life. You're literally killing yourself. You're taking these drugs. So it's in the word. But again, words are power. They can be spells too. You just keep using them. You're going to believe what comes with it. So yeah, I do use germs. I call them microbes too, because there is a negative connotation, but they really shouldn't be.
I'm running with it now. I'm running with that. The germinating life.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. That's perfect. And talking about that, there's so many different microbes that we have.
Yeah.
In our body, on our skin, in our mouth, in our mucous membranes, in our guts. This universe there. What has, in your experience, what has impressed you the most about the microbes of our body?
The main thing would be the pleomorphic nature. So not to bore people.
Let's go into
it. So you did mention like these building blocks in the blood. And one of the many things that I've learned that are in our blood, there's something called the microzyma, which actually in French means small ferment. And these were discovered by a guy named Antoine Béchamp. who was a French microbiologist, chemist. He did everything. And a lot of his work was plagiarized by Louis Pasteur, who took all the credit for the germ theory. Antoine Béchamp showed that basically our entire body, the tissues, and even stuff in nature, plants, soil, water, everything, had these little tiny microbes that actually would become bacteria and fungus depending on the environment. So other guys built upon his work. Gunther Enderlein out of Germany. You had Royal Raymond Rife out of America. You had Gaston Naissance out of France, I believe, or Canada. All these guys and dozens of others saw the same thing. These little tiny microzymas in the blood would change the way they act in the terrain in the body, depending on how the body was. So if you're in a state of stagnation, you can pharmaceuticals, poor diet, whatever, you're going to have these germs change into various different forms of bacteria and fungus to react to the terrain. And what they do primarily is they eat dead and dying tissue. And when that occurs, your body has to excrete it. So symptoms occur. But that is how your body gets rid of the garbage.
Right.
So we have to change our entire paradigm shift of what disease is. Germs are definitely involved in the disease process, but they're not the cause of the disease process. They are the response. We use this example all the time. If you have firefighters at the scene of a fire, does that mean they caused a fire? No, they're putting it out. So the germs, Antoine Béchamp actually showed this, germs have no action on healthy tissue. They're just there. They're always there. You take a skin graft, you do something in your gut, you're going to have millions upon billions of germs always there. Yet when we get sick, we want to blame these things that always live in us. It doesn't make any logical sense, but that's what we've been told. And then when they falsify themselves, say, for instance, Robert Koch, he was a guy that built upon Louis Pasteur. He said that tuberculosis bacteria causes tuberculosis, whatever. I forgot the actual name of the bacteria. And he falsified himself because he found the same bacteria in healthy people. And he found them in healthy animals. And he can never actually isolate it and give people the bacteria and cause disease. So he came up with asymptomatic. Oh yeah, they're asymptomatic, meaning their immune systems are strong enough to deal with the germ, so that's why they're not sick. So they make up these escape devices, and it's called the post hoc rationalization, where you have a theory, you falsify yourself, so you make up a claim to then build back up. That's what they do. That's what germ theory is all about. So again, like it's all long-winded, but these germs are always there. They're always reacting. They're always changing. They're pleomorphic, which means they actively change their shape, their size, their role, and they're helping you at the end of the day. Of course, in certain people, if you're super compromised, you're really sick and you're really weak, their action can kill you. Right. But that's not their fault. It's really your fault. And if you continually suppress over the course of your entire life, your body's not going to be able to handle the healing process. In the vast majority of cases, you'll be able to handle it just fine.
I love that. Pleomorphism is such an interesting concept. I know that is not the word that most people thought they were
They woke up, they're like, what?
Pleo what?
With the bacon, egg, and cheese, like, Pleo what?
But yeah, it's such an incredible concept. Essentially, what it sounds like is these are like stem cells of the
microbial life, yeah.
Microbial life, and they can go in whatever direction is necessary for the most appropriate action to keep life going.
Pretty much. That's their job. And they build you up, and then when it's time for you to die, they'll break you down. That's essentially, and what a lot of these guys were showing that I named, they are coming from the soil. And a lot of what Béchamp saw specifically, he saw that these stem cells, these microzymas, they were made of the same elements that were found in the soil and that were found in humans. So one can logically conclude that they actually make us up like entirely. Right. And then when you look at what we'll talk about them later, but the Bigelsons do with live blood analysis, you see these tiny little microzymas outnumbering everything in the blood. They outnumber the white blood cells, the red blood cells, the platelets. They are making us up who we are. They're like the life. Some people call it the life particle or the manifestation of chi or prana, whatever you want to. They are life. And there's a scripture actually in the Bible that says, to dust you are and to dust you will return. And if these things are coming from the dust, the dirt, it makes a lot more sense. So yeah, we just gotta reflect on these things and understand that germs are there to keep you alive. They're not there to break you down and kill you, but they can if you're not listening to the body. Right. And that's the balanced view we have to understand. We're not calling them pathogens. We're not even calling them opportunistic. Like they're just there and they're responding. If they're needed, they're going to proliferate and they're going to grow. And then when you fix the terrain, they'll go back to a dormant state. That's their job.
And that is essentially the basis on which I practice herbalism.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like that. Our bodies are here. There are things inside of them. What we can do is help our resiliency as best as we can, because there's going to be ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
We're not escaping toxicity at this point.
Never. No.
That's not happening. So you're going to understand that this is a process where illness and symptoms will occur. That's okay. But your body needs to be resilient enough to not allow those things to make you bedridden for a very long period of time, or worst case scenario, never wake up.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's why I use adaptogens to help people. You know,
I love mushrooms. Yeah.
And people oftentimes ask me, "Oh, what herbs can I take to heal this, or to cure this, or to treat this?" I'm like, you can't.
It's still the same allopathic type.
The mindset, the questioning is a brainwash type question, and that's not how herbs work in our body. That's not even how our body works.
Not at all.
So it's a very interesting dynamic of communicating with the public in a way that they can understand and not be like, wait, what are you talking about? I don't get that.
Everybody wants a magic pill. A
Yeah.
quick thing to take. Oh, yeah. In certain cases, yeah, can you take some turmeric to help with pain? For sure.
Right.
But at the end of the day, your body is taking everything from that herb that is communicating the energy, the nutrition, its own microbiology, and assimilating that, and it knows exactly what to do. But you it's like, I think the paradigm too is, you hit it on the head. I hate it when current naturopaths, current herbalists, whatever, they'll say, oh, this will kill this. This will kill this. It's so antagonistic.
Right.
And you're still in that warlike mentality that we've been fed our entire life, the immune system fighting the bad germ. And when you're thinking like that, your body is taking that energy that you are then reflecting, and it may not work. And like the same thing, it's called placebo, nocebo, whatever you want to call it. The intention and the energy that we put into healing will dictate whether or not it's going to work.
I love that, and it's true. It is true. The mentality, the brain set, what you're saying to yourself is what's going to happen. And a lot of times, you know, people even take drugs or a herb that wasn't even appropriate for the situation that they were dealing with, and because they had that, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to use this. This is going to help me, and it'll help for, you know, a couple weeks, a few weeks, and then they go right back to square one. Unless or until they have another conversation with someone that they trust, and then they have another introduction of a new herbal molecule that may assist in, you know, improving energy in certain other places, and then they start feeling better again.
Yeah.
But it's putting, you know, a Band-Aid on the issue when we're not getting to the core of it. Now, don't get it twisted. These herbs can definitely help you.
Yeah.
They definitely increase anatomy in many different ways, but you got to get out of your own way, and you can't rely on them just like
you shouldn't rely on anything.
Pill.
Like anything, really. Like at the end of the day, it's really your food that we should rely on. But again, here, especially in America, our food sucks. The quality's horrible. So yeah, you're taking herbs. I use also homeopathy, which is amazing. Isopathy, another one. Movement stuff, like all of that. We can use it when we're sick and all that's really good. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't have to rely on something else to keep you healthy. It's really you, your energy, the quality of life you have that will then dictate whether or not you will be healthy.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the mycorrhiza.
Of course.
Microzyma.
Microzyma.
I'm saying it mycorrhiza.
Mycorrhizal fungal. Yeah.
The connections between the plants and the mushrooms. I'm sure that there's a definite intricate connection that way, because it definitely sounds the soil, that is how the soil lives, using the fungal connections. But the mycorrhiza, I researched several years back, I want to say almost like a decade and a half at this point. Wilhelm Reich's work with Oregon Energy, and he first introduced the idea of bions.
Yes.
And I thought that was very interesting. And I was in my campaign of understanding anatomy, understanding the scale and size of different things, from what we would call bacteria and what, you know, the fungal spores, and then what they were looking at as viruses. And
back in
I
the
was
day,
like, there's a lot of different levels and sizes of different things that are inside of our body. They're all microscopic, but within that microscopicness, there's levels there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, so what is the connection piece between life and inorganic, or what is alive and what is not alive.
Yeah.
So a mineral is not alive.
Yeah.
But a bacteria is alive. So what was that connection piece? And I remember hearing bions. I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting concept.
They've gone through all different names. When people listening, they might be a little bit confused. Initially, it was microzyma. People called it somatids, protids, endobions, bions. They called it the life particle. I forgot what Royal Raymond Rife called them. But at the end of the day, they're all the same thing. They're all doing the same thing. It doesn't matter what man calls it. They're just doing it. They're going to reflect again. They're going to change their environment. They're going to change their role. It's amazing, really. Like, they become everything. They literally, and what people now, I'm seeing a lot of people use like exosome therapy and stem cell therapy. Those are microzymas too. They literally become various different cells. They're responsible for cellular division. They're responsible again for the microbiology. So it's like we only tapped a little bit into what they actually can do, and unfortunately, a lot of these guys, a lot of their experiments and their studies were done decades and decades and decades ago. Not Wilhelm Reich. Gaston Naessens was heavily persecuted by the government, I believe, in Canada and where he was initially from. Royal Raymond Rife had his microscope actually taken by the FBI, and he was jailed, I believe, as well. So this type of stuff. It's very niche. It's very, one could say controversial, conspiratorial, but it's very true. And unfortunately, when we get close to this and understand how the body actually works, they, quote unquote, are not going to like that. Because, that kind of destroys our whole paradigm that we have built in the germ theory. And again, we're not saying that germs don't exist. Again, and we'll probably get to viruses in a bit, but germs exist. We can see them. We can manipulate them. We can grow them. You can look at them and validate their existence. They are not working against you. Wilhelm Reich showed this. Béchamp showed this. They are working with what they are given. So just got to support that process. That's it.
And our air quality, our sun exposure, our environments that we are constantly in, especially, we're in Harlem right now.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of waterfalls and, and woods for people to escape to on foot. I mean, you can go, there's places. You can cross the bridge. You can get into Jersey. I'll take you on the nature walk.
I'm trying to think of Central Park can go there. It's nice, beautiful. I grew up in Queens, so we have a little more parks than in Manhattan. But still, you got to go out in nature, man, for sure. It's very healing. Go ground, touch grass. 15 minutes a day. Yeah.
It's a key component to healing and recovery in many instances. Man, so let me tell y'all, WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. I am here having a great conversation about terrain theory, about the issues that is going on when it comes to understanding what healing is and how this process and understanding our terrain and how healing really occurs undermines the medical system and why they don't want this information to be vastly spread.
Yep.
It definitely will crumble everything that our doctors, our medical system has been built on. And Jacob already gave us some of the stats of how piss poor our health is in respects to how much money we spend on health, which is crazy. Like, we spend more than countries.
Yeah.
The whole GDP of a dog.
I think it was something like over 30 plus countries we spend more on just the medical stuff alone. And I believe at this point, this is a very, not conservative or liberal estimate, but the number 3 cause of death in America is iatrogenic deaths, which is around, I believe the Johns Hopkins Institute said around 260,000 plus. But we know it's a lot more.
Right.
When you don't factor in chemotherapy, when they're going to call it cancer, right? Of course, that they're nuking your body. You're not going to count the drug overdoses. You're not going to count, with COVID, for instance, you had people that were perfectly fine being put on ventilators, be given remdesivir, which shut down your organs, and then you unfortunately died. Is that counted as an iatrogenic death, or was that counted as COVID?
Right.
So really, what a more adequate estimate, I would say, would be more than 1 million people die a year in America alone from the medical system, but they're going to count only about 260,000. So really, it's the number 1 cause of death in America.
I concur with that because there are very, very, very large cases of underreporting.
Oh yeah.
And anything that is close, they're just going to say, oh, that was not caused by us.
Oh yeah, they're just going to make an excuse. I mean, can we say the V word on this?
Yes.
Okay.
You can.
Yeah, so the vaccine adverse reporting system, only about I believe a study said about 1 to 5% of the reportings of what actually happens are actually reported. And when you go on the website, it takes 1,000 years to report it, and people get tired and they don't know about it either.
Right.
So
Most
I mean,
people don't not.
they're not aware.
Parents do not know about
No,
this.
and then in the 1980s, the vaccine manufacturers were not liable anymore for all of these injuries. So of course they're going to deflect something else. Well, it must have been this. It must have been a virus, right? A virus. It can't be your vaccine. And of course, like that does with everything. With antibiotics, I see a lot of people in my DMs. They ask me, "Oh, something happened with my son or whatever. What could have happened?" Oh, well, he was put on 4 rounds of antibiotics. He was being fed garbage hospital food for a week. He was being put on a ventilator. They sedated him, all these things, and then his body starts to decay. And of course, they're going to say, "Oh, he died from an infection." Nah, he died from the drugs that destroyed his microbiome. The hormones were out of whack, and unfortunately, all these things happen. But yeah, it's sick what they do. They get away with it because we don't question it.
All right.
That's the thing.
Dr. Larry Pilevsky was on the.
Oh, he was on?
Yeah, we had him on a couple episodes ago, and he went all the way in with his 30 years of pediatric experience. I thought I was going to get kicked off the radio for the stuff that he was saying. But
I'm about to lock my doors.
But yeah, it's really crazy. The parents, I hear a lot from asking questions about just what you said. How do they improve the health of their kids? And it's like, there's a lot of toxins that you're putting into your child. Like, we have to figure out different subtle detoxes. I'm not a huge detox guy as an herbalist. So, I know my colleagues in the herbal community, no shade.
It's a buzzword, man. Yeah. They use it to sell supplements, let's be real.
But they do work.
And they do work sometimes, they do. But what I tell people, I do see the body detoxes naturally. Right. And when you're supporting it, it's going to do it on its own. Mm-hmm. I do believe a detox once in a while is good to rebalance and do some binders, some herbs, all that stuff. I take an herbal blend every morning. I mean, it's a part of my routine. It's like natural stuff. But people, if you're detoxing so much, you're actually diminishing a lot of the nutrients of the microbiome, so you can actually get weaker. Like for someone, like for instance, example, so if someone has stage 2, stage 3 cancer, am I going to put them through a 45, 50-day water fast and like 4 or 5 detox protocols? Absolutely not. They may die.
They need the nutrients.
And we need to feed them, actually. So it's like there's a balance here. In certain cases, you're really bloated, you feel sick. Yeah, detox may be beneficial for you. But a sauna is a detox. Like go there, do that once a week, you're good. Working out, all these things, you're doing it intuitively and intentionally. Right. So yeah, there's a balance there. I think a lot of the wellness community will use a lot of these buzzwords: detox, mold, rebalance, whatever. They're even starting to use terrain a lot, and they're using it in a flipped way. They're saying pathogens, they're saying detox, and I'm like, oh my god, what do we do? Like they're always trying to sell something. But I'm not against selling stuff. I'm not against herbs, obviously, in homeopathy. But you have to understand, if you're always detoxing, you're always fearful. Right. And when you're fearful, you're stressed. When you're stressed, you're sick.
So. That's right on point. It's right on point. There's people ask for it now, and I feel like it's been put in the stratosphere to where everyone has to go, oh, I gotta get rid of these parasites.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah.
I gotta get rid of the mold exposure. I mean, but there's a lot of people that have mold in their house, so there is a lot of overexposure. And when I was sitting in clinicals, which I have not been back in a couple of months, just because there's a lot of action going on. But I will sit with MD, Dr. Annalisa Pastore, incredible medical doctor with a holistic mindset, and just listening to the patients. A lot of people had some type of mold exposure, and one of the things I found really interesting is like your mold exposure inside your house is not the same as mold exposure inside the woods, even though there's way more mold in the woods. Probably even some of the black mold as well.
Oh, yeah.
But then you have I feel like the mold will break down some chemical toxins in your home environment, which makes it more hazardous to your health.
That's pretty, you're on line. And I love this topic because it's actually one of the more emotional topics I get on my IG. Whenever I make a post, I can count on it. Oh, mold, you're always gonna have people, oh my god, mold. Here's the things about mold. We have it in our bodies at all times. Mm-hmm. Okay, Isopathics that I mentioned in the beginning. Isopathics are based off the pleomorphic medicinal theory, really, and they are actually active germs that we use for medicine. Or rather, two of them that I use with my clients and my family members sometimes are mucorrasmosis, which is a fungus, actually a mold, and Aspergillus niger, black mold. I use that, and they work really well to heal people. So what is it really that's going on? And you said it. Way more mold in the forest, and we're hiking all the time, and no one's sick. You breathe in. There was an estimate, I believe, I think it was ASD study in 2017, between 1,000 to 1 billion spores a day, depending on the person. So if mold caused disease, everyone would be cooked immediately. You'd be dead. But that's not the case. What's happening, and I always see this. It's funny. You just know. You talk to people, you see clients, you just know what's happening. In the vast majority of cases, mold disease is really water damage causing a proliferation of a bunch of old building materials that are off-gassing chemicals. You have aldehydes, you have formaldehyde, you have benzene, you have all these chemicals that are seeping that are actually made more toxic because they're wet. Off-gassing, that's what it is. So you're breathing that in, and then you're not getting adequate air circulation. They're not opening their windows. They're not having an air filter. The water damage is kind of there, so it's affecting the air quality as well, and exacerbated by the poor diet they may have, and the traumas and the stress they may be dealing with. And they rip the mold out, and they're like, oh, it must be this. But in actuality, they actually did a couple of studies where show that the mold actually lessens the toxicity of building materials. So it's actually responding in a beneficial way. What's actually happening is you're getting sick from all of the byproducts from that process. So a lot of people may mention, oh, what about the mold toxins, the mycotoxins? They did a couple studies, and when you look at these mold studies, they're really very limited. Like, they did studies exposing people to mold, and no one got sick. And this is a theme in germ theory. You expose people to a bunch of germs and nothing happens. So they did this with mold, no one got sick. They did it with mycotoxins, no one got sick. And they found that mycotoxins, in the vast majority of cases, they're too heavy to off-gas into the air, so they actually just fall down to the floor. So you're not even breathing them in. So we're always trying to look for something to blame. What I think is happening is, and the vast majority of people in the terrain space, the mold is responding because there's a lot of water damage, and it's lessening the toxicity. But the water damage has already done a lot of damage to your environment, so you're breathing all that garbage in. The best thing to do is to fix the water damage, maybe use less toxic building materials, or better yet, one of my clients, actually, I told her you should move. Because at this point, your house is just breaking down, it's rotting, and you're breathing all that garbage in. So don't blame the mold spores that are always there. Blame the damage that's happening. And she moved, and she doesn't have any issues now. So a lot of these people, they may associate, and that's the thing, they're associating disease with a specific microbe. But that's point in the clear. No real evidence other than what I saw and this happened. We need to prove X causes Y. That's the scientific thinking. So yeah, it's not the mold, never will be the mold, it's the environment. And I mean, we said, you go out hiking, you're breathing all that in. The animals are breathing all that in, and everyone's fine.
Everybody is good.
Everybody's good. I mean, blue cheese should kill you.
There was a report, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, out here in Harlem, I believe, where a bunch of people got Legionnaire's disease and had died.
Yeah.
Which already had my friends like, oh, what do you think about this? You know,
I got a couple of those too. Yeah. Every outbreak, I can't escape them, man. I can't.
But it boils down to the way that they are determining how you're being given that title of a disease that killed you.
The testing, the diagnosis is the symptoms. The differential diagnosis is the term. But if you're coughing, if you have mucusy stuff coming out, and maybe a fever, they're just going to assume because there's a couple other cases, it must be this. And then we'll use maybe a culturing to validate. But culturing, funny enough, my friend Leave Dalton of Beyond Terrain, he put a study out there recently that showed only 1% of microbes can actually be cultured. So that means that leaves basically everything else to be cultured that we don't know about. So yeah, they may be culturing for something specific, but that doesn't mean that that's the only microbe there. And they're also using a specific growth medium and all these things. I mean, Legionnaires, it's pneumonia, right? So what can lead to pneumonia? Garbage air quality. And Harlem, unfortunately, is notorious for garbage air quality. And then you have, unfortunately, a food desert here, too. You're not getting a lot of good food. You're not going out in the sun. And, I mean, we don't know what they're doing. I don't want to sound too conspiratorial, but we know they're spraying stuff in the skies that are affecting our air. We know we're breathing garbage in. There's poison earth from fracking and all this stuff. The water quality is garbage. So we don't know for sure what could have happened, but we do know, and this is for anyone listening, if you want to start, read The Contagion Myth by Dr. Thomas Cowan. Every single major disease was due to an environmental toxin or some sort of massive stress event. And that same principle in every single outbreak I've ever seen. You can find something that changed in the environment that led to people getting sick. From the Black Plague, to COVID, to, I mean, what's name an outbreak, a smallpox, like all these things. It's always Spanish flu. I mean, yeah, it's all manufactured garbage, environmental toxicity. And then the people that die, I mean, we just talked about it. What are they being given in the hospital? Could you be just going in with some cough or whatever, and maybe some homeopathic pulsatilla or, let's say, basil, like whatever could have helped. But instead, you were given an antibiotic. Right. And then you were given a steroid. And then you were put on a ventilator. And then everything else, then that's what happens.
And the void of having anything natural in the hospitals is one of my biggest pet peeves. I remember trying to bring herbs into the hospital to give to people. Oh my goodness, they had a fit.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
because you can't patent nature. Right. You can't make money off of it. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
Yo, you're saying that we can't bring food in here? You got
it's food. So
you guys have terrible food.
You got Jello in the fridge, man.
We're trying to bring in some healthier versions of food, and you're saying no, you can't do that.
It's ridiculous, too.
They are very ridiculous, and they'll use it's liability and things like that. But at the end of the day, you can't use legalese to minimize the health value that you're providing to your patient.
And that's all the Flexner report too. I'm sure you're aware of the Flexner report, the Rockefeller-backed report done by Abraham Flexner, where he was essentially negating all the homeopathic, herbal, eclectic, chiropractic schools that were essentially the backbone of all medicine in America until really the early 1900s. And we were pretty healthy as a nation. We relied on really homeopathy was the medicine. And when you look at various outbreaks, you see that the mortality rates in all of these natural clinics were so much less than the ones that were allopaths. Because back in the day, they were doing, they were using rusty tools. They weren't washing their hands, so all that blood and poop was going into people. They were using not formaldehyde, sorry. I think it was mercury, actually, they were using very commonly, and arsenic, another one. So people were dying left and right in the hospitals. And it's not very different from what's happening today. But the Flexner report was a way for Rockefeller and all these, I think the John Hopkins 5, to control the entire medical system and the education system. So if you don't follow our germ theory, science-y, chemical model type medicine, we're not going to fund you. We're going to shut you down. And that's why the vast majority of these hospitals and medical institutions teach germ theory and these really big sciencey word type theologies. And even now, the ones that did survive, the naturopathic schools that survived, the chiropractic schools, the osteopathic schools, they're very medical oriented now.
Right.
And it's not the same as what it was back in the day.
Vitalism has been
it's been sucked out. And the only ones I've seen that's retained it is traditional Chinese medicine. Mm-hmm. Where back in China, they do have allopaths, but they also have hospitals that are split in half to do traditional Chinese medicine. You can actually choose what you want. And there's still a lot more TCM. And same thing in India. They have Ayurvedic medicine. So I think there should be more of a choice. I do see, and the only time I see allopathic medicine as a tool for good is trauma care.
Yes.
You got hit by a car, you got stabbed in an alley, go, and because they're going to put you back together and to keep you alive. Mm-hmm. But for literally everything else, do not trust them at all, because they will kill you. Yeah.
Top number one cause of death in America, iatrogenic death.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. WACR 90.3 FM radio, the voice of Harlem. We're having this incredible conversation. This is the conversation that you needed to hear about understanding your terrain and your magical ability to heal, to recover, your mentality, your mindset, microbes that are inside of you, the water that is inside of you and flowing through your veins. This is how we make healing happen. And speaking of healing happening, and we also spoke about chemotherapy and eradication of the vitality of our body when people are taking this, and the hope of just you're going to recover, right? They give you this nuclear
It's mustard gas, dude. Yeah.
of destruction to remove everything that's growing fast in your body, and crossing their fingers that you can recover
exactly
in a manner that is that is not going to kill you. It's absolute
it's
insanity.
crazy when you think about it.
When you say it out loud, it's like, damn, that sounds crazy. That really sounds crazy. And I always like to I have to take a moment to give some light to a friend of mine. His name is Tim Pitts. He was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He took 2 rounds of the chemotherapy. The first one, he said, all right, I think I might be able to do this. The second one hospitalized him, and he said he knows that if he keeps going down that route, he will die.
And they call it cancer.
And they'll know exactly. So he has been going through a process, and our prayers are out to you, Tim, in which he's trying to find doctors that will take care of him. His primary care physician and his oncologist was like, if you don't take this chemotherapy, we're not going to see you anymore. He was not able to get his, I just want to get my blood worked. I have a herbal protocol that I'm going to be working with. I'm trying to work with holistic doctors, do some energy medicine. I just want you to respect my decision. They did not
don't respect
his decision. They say they respect your decision, but telling you can't come back for your MRIs or any type of where you stand is absolutely, it's not illegal apparently, because I asked around. I asked some physicians. I was like, yo, can they do that? If you're taking care of somebody with cancer and they decide not to go with your treatment, you're gonna just kick them out? It's like, yeah, they have full authority to do so if they choose. And I think that's very, very unfortunate. So just prayers out to Tim Pitts. I told you I was going to shout you out on this radio show. Get the name and the healing and the prayers on the airways. So I got your back, brother. I'm rocking with you the whole entire way, man. But I just think the new way of diagnostics on a more terrain-based mentality is something that we should talk about, man. What type of things are out there for people to get scans and checks?
So I'm a lot more quote unquote classical when it comes to this stuff. I have my own practice, my own medical practice I run from my home. Basically, I meet with people internationally. Terrain UV, that's what it's called. And I see, especially with my history form I give to people, the answer's right there all the time. Literally every single time. The body will tell you exactly what's wrong. They just haven't listened to it. And that's why you need a practitioner like you, like me, like people that are trained to help you see what's going on. The testing, I'm not a huge fan of testing because it can be, there's a lot of times it can be completely wrong. I mean, one of them, big one I see a lot, people are like, oh, what about sepsis of testing? Right. The sepsis testing is 40% of the time inaccurate. Some people say, some studies say 50 to 60%. So imagine you go to the hospital and they think you have sepsis. It comes back, there's a 40% false positive rate. You get positive, you get put on 40 rounds of antibiotics, and you die. And they're going to call it sepsis. So that's the thing. Like, these people are being given diagnoses, and testing may or may not be scientific. With COVID, we saw the same thing. The PCR test was made by Corman Drosten, who did not have any clinical sample. He had no virus isolate. He made the test computer-generated models. They were completely, it was like a computer game, really. Mm-hmm. He waited for them to publish a genome that was made the same way via a computer. He sent out this test to a bunch of different nations. They raised the cycle threshold to like 40, 50 cycles plus. Everyone's testing positive because what they found was the sequences you were testing for, the primers, actually were found in microbes and were found in the human genetic materials as well. So you're testing your own body. But again, they say it's a virus and all these people start testing positive and you can manufacture a pandemic. And the blood testing too, that's another thing. Blood testing, your blood is always changing. One of the great examples I got from the Bigglesons, their father, Harvey Biggleson, he would do tests on people's pH, specifically on their blood. And he saw that, take a blood sample, for instance, and he said if he sees it's more acidic or alkaline, whatever, he would tell the patient like a lie, like say, wow, this blood work is really good. Or say, whoa, this blood work is horrible. And then he'll take the blood again and the pH would change. So it was all emotional. It was stress. Yeah. And that's what he was showing. Like it was all like the blood is like that. It can change. So I do see, sometimes people want to take some blood work to see the mineral content and all that and their platelet count and all that stuff. Yeah, I see the logic behind it. But the symptoms are going to match exactly what the blood is going to tell you. And if I get the right homeopathy, the right herb, and the right diet or something, the blood will actively change with it. So really at this point in my practice and what I'm doing, the best diagnosis I've seen, testing really, is the holographic blood work that the Bigglesons are doing. Because the blood will tell you exactly what's wrong. And when people listening, when I say holographic blood, you do need to use a dark field microscope so it can see living blood.
Dark field
microscope. Yeah.
This is very unique microscope.
Very unique microscope. It sees things directly in the blood without adding chemicals, reagents, whatever. So it's not staining anything. It's not stopping or affecting the blood. Unlike electron microscopy, which you have to kill the thing to see it. And that causes a lot of issues. With dark field, you can see the living thing. And with that, they see the microzymas. They see the platelet count. They see the white blood cells. They see the red blood cells. But they also see these little images. Some people call them symplasts, where the images are more so energetic imprints of what the blood is currently concerned about. And I kid you not, I have a presentation that I will be making public in a couple months. I made a post about it. But these images actually show you, like literal, the definition of a kidney or a liver or a lung. Like it literally makes the shape of the organ. So when you look at it, you're like, what? And he did this, Harvey Biggleson, he was trained by traditional German naturopathic microscopy. And then he did it for like 40 plus years. And then he taught his sons how to do it. Very few people know how to do this. But live cell analysis people today, they'll look at these symplasts and be like, oh, parasites. Oh, this, that, and a third. Here, take a detox. But in actuality, these are energetic images. Because when I've seen these images firsthand, you see the blood, you see the red blood cells, whatever. And then you see a huge image in the middle. And it's clear as day that it's like an ovary or a uterus or a tooth, for instance. And when you reference that organ and the body heals, the image will then disappear. And the image also is not physically there. That's why I call it an energy. Because if it was physically there, you'd be hemorrhaging or stroking immediately. Right. Because it would be blocking blood flow. But it's not actually there. It's actually just an image. And that's when we talked about the etheric principle, the energies. That's what the blood is. The blood is the manifestation of all the energy. So it's going to tell you exactly what's wrong. You don't need a mineral thing or whatever. It'll tell you. And the platelets, like I think they told me in the class, a super, super large platelet is acute inflammation, something we can deal with very quickly. But a very small platelet all around the blood, that is more chronic inflammation. And that's what they found through 40 plus years of experience. And that's what we can then use as a barometer. Okay, what's going on here? There's certain blood markers that people with supposed mold or Lyme disease show. They have these little like dots in their blood, which means that the blood cells are actually weak. They're not regenerating. There's certain markers in white blood cells, like all these things that you can just visualize. You don't need to rely on molecular tests or numbers or whatever, because all of that's changing and all of that can be actually incorrect too. Right. So just looking at it directly, what is the blood telling me right now? That's the only thing I use at this point, if I can't figure it out. Right. But most of the time, really, I can figure it out because the body is telling me exactly, hey, what's wrong? Oh, it was actually this trauma. It was this diet. It was this, and that's what happened. So you fix that, you'll heal pretty quickly.
Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. It just sounds very, very similar to Veda Austin's work.
It's the same principles, really.
It's like it's
the same exact thing.
It's water and versus the blood, and the image is showing what
it's the same thing.
Need to know.
When I learned about Veda Austin's work, I was dumbfounded. It was insane. But knowing now how everything is water, everything is energy, it makes perfect sense now.
This is magic coming into science real time. Yeah. And we're being able to see this, utilize this, identify this in many people. I don't think it's growing fast enough, but it is growing.
It's growing, slowly.
Slowly.
Very slowly.
And people are catching on. Being able to tap in with you, how would somebody do that? If they wanted to work with you, let's say, for example, my man Tim Pitts.
Hey,
right?
Tim, hit my line, man.
Right.
Yeah, most of my work is on Instagram, undercover virologist, regular spelling. I do posts that expose germ theory, history, specific diseases, how to heal various things. And as I said, I am a naturopathic practitioner, so I do have my own practice, terrainuv.com, and that's where you can schedule consultations and stuff like that, where we'll just talk and get to the root as to what's going on. And I also have a Telegram where I repost everything in case people want to do that, and I also have a Twitter, all the same name. But really, at this point, it's just making content, hoping people can connect to it, reaching out to people that I think I can help, and just doing stuff like this, podcasts, radio shows, getting the word out about terrain. We also have a special terrain-based event in Westchester from September 26th to September 28th. It's called Terrainology. So you're going to have Dr. Andrew Kaufman, my friend Dr. Mary Arce. We have the Bigglesons, a good number of terrain-based people that are going to be there. It's going to be in Mount Kisco. All the details are on my Instagram. So if people want to come and just learn, feel free. Build the community, again, from the ground up. And I'll be there because I'm going to be hosting. So, yeah, it's going to be really fun. We're going to try to
September 26th
to the 28th. And hopefully you're there too.
Oh, I'll be there.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to be a lot of fun for sure. And we just got to do a lot more of these so people understand what terrain is all about. And hopefully we get the wind of some MDs and some people in business sectors that can see and maybe like make a huge difference providing resources for us, research, all that stuff. So, that's the goal.
Yes, I'm definitely going to get involved in many aspects. On the nonprofit side, my charity, Max Philanthropies, research and development of herbal sciences and helping people with chronic ailments. I'm going to do everything in my power to get as many MDs and doctors up there as possible so we can take that next quantum leap to bring this right to the forefront in their minds. And then also we can get the funding for the different research.
We can do it, man. It isn't done. We talked about in the beginning.
Necessary.
The homeopathic hospitals, it's funny. In homeopathy, the vast majority of homeopathics at the beginning were MDs. They left the system because they didn't like it, and they found a natural system that was very effective, cheap, and safe. So we got to do the same thing in 2025. We got to find all these MDs, like you said, all these doctors, these people with notoriety, and bring them in, have them understand, so then they can teach others and maybe start to apply terrain in their practice, and then it becomes mainstream.
That's the goal. Key. That is the goal, man. Y'all got to tap in with us. Jacob, I'm going to have you back on here, by the way. Okay,
yeah,
just get comfortable.
Gotcha.
You're going to be back.
Absolutely, man.
Man, I'm so appreciative of y'all tapping in with us this morning. Jacob, the Undercover Virologist, you can find him on Instagram. You can find him on Twitter. You can find him everywhere. Make sure you tap in, go to his links, figure out what's going on. You can tap in with them with consultation, and you can also stay in contact with the work that we will be doing in the future, September 26th through the 28th. So I got to thank you all for joining us here on the People's Healing Show this morning. Don't forget, your voice, your presence, your vibration matter. You are the medicine. So keep moving. You are part of your healing process. So honor your roots, protect your peace, ask questions, let nature guide you home. Until next time, stay grounded, folks. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.
This is a journey into sound. We are all